All right, I'm going to go to my channel here, make sure everything is set up properly. Um, I have a weird setup right now because Skype is being discontinued, so I'm trying to figure out something else. Um, so for now, I'm over here in StreamYards. Everything should be working according to plan. Let me make absolutely sure. Um, so it says connect streaming software to go live. It does not say that we are there we go. All right, cool. So I should have everything set up properly. And um, so StreamYard isn't what I'm probably going to be using going forward because it costs a lot of money to get the good features and not time limits. But for now, this is what we're working with. And I have with me somebody who has recently been catching a lot of flack. Now, this particular situation started, and let me do a quick sound check. All right, cool. This situation started uh, like a couple days ago, if I understand correctly, and basically, Caryn Ann Harlos, who is the Pink Flame of Liberty, the Pink Parliamentarian, Jurassic Dictionary, a variety of other things, LP secretary again, which is great because was bullshit the reasons you were removed. But all of that being said, generally speaking, this was like I think a really good example of the sort of the dog piling that that his kind of culture
Mm-hmm.
incites, the kind of bully mentality, the kind of we've got to find somebody to single out because your post was a completely reasonable response, and for some reason wasn't good enough for them. And my audience is very familiar with what that reason is, in my opinion. So I'm going to let you introduce the story and yourself. If I missed anything in your honorifics, feel free to fill in the gaps.
Mother of Dragons, the Unburnt. No, first of her name.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, to me it was routine, and I guess this is kind of just what happens on Twitter. You post a million things, and then something you don't expect completely blows up. So I screenshotted something I thought was quite horrible that Matt Walsh said, but I've been responding to Matt Walsh for years. This isn't new. I've done whole shows on Matt Walsh. It hasn't really gotten any attention, but I don't do things to get attention. Like, I do things because I like to do them. If one person watches, great. If 100,000 people watch, great. That's just the only way to me you can do this, or you drive yourself crazy with numbers. So I screenshot him because I wasn't about to give a retweet to that. And so his post was, what I didn't like about it was the gee willikers, like he wasn't referring to a situation that just happened. So the situation that just happened is where the young white football player got stabbed to death by a young black athlete. And we don't know all the details. We still do not know all the details. And for anyone to be drawing conclusions from this till we know all the details is foolish. I would hope we have all learned that. But we do know one child is dead and one child is going to prison, and a twin, because the child who's dead, my teenager, he had a twin brother right there who tried to save his life, and that poor kid's going to be traumatized for life. So this is a horrible situation. So Matt made a post that basically said, I'm not going to be quoting him exactly, so people are going to jump up and down, that, oh, if you happen to hear a story about two youths, one white, one black, and one told the other one he was sitting in the wrong seat, and the reaction of the other one was to stab one of them to death, you would know immediately which one was the stabber. Young blacks are outrageously and typically, or something like that, disproportionately violent. We need to dress this honestly, or we'll never fix the problem. First of all, ghoulishly posting something like that immediately after such a tragic event is absolutely vile. But second, you don't care, or you would have added in, or at least put in a disclaimer that it isn't because he was black that this happened. There are other factors. So I posted in response, and it wasn't meant to be a refutation. It wasn't meant for me to pull out the statistician books and go, but this, I'm envisioning that conspiracy guy with all the red lines. That wasn't the point. The point was to put a human perspective on it, because 3 human lives were just one lost to prison, and one traumatized for life. So I just posted, while that might be statistically true, I didn't say that part, but I mean, let's just take that for granted. Over the past year, I had been sharing a lot of public transit stories. I live not in the city, but I work in the city. I live in the suburbs. I work in the city. So I have to take public transit, and I work in Denver. Denver's been pretty infamous for how rough it can be. And I had said that the times that I had felt endangered on the public transit system or gotten harassed have been by white men, not by black men, and one white woman, which was something that had happened recently. And one occasion, there was a young black man that I had prejudged, not because he was black, but because he looked like an obvious gangbanger. But some people still have that look when they leave the gang. I mean, we see those conversion stories all the time. So I was worried because he looked like he was in a gang, not because he was black. So this guy gets on board, and I'm like, oh no, there's a gangbanger. And then another stop, these 2 very disheveled white men got on and immediately lit up a crack pipe. And this gangbanger was incensed and was like, what do you think you are doing on this train with these women and children, firing up a crack pipe? And he goes, you're getting off the next stop. And he escorted them off the train. And there was another, like, I didn't even put this in the post. There was another time where there was this one young white guy harassing this young white girl, and this ended up blowing up as well. And there were other men on the train, and no one was standing up for this girl. So I was like, what's like going on? At least I think I can't hold on. I can't remember if I stayed silent in this one. I think this is the one that convicted me that I'm a woman, but I'm never going to remain silent. So my memory's fuzzy on this, but what I do remember is none of the men stood up for her. And then everyone started giving me the Daniel Penny story and all of that. I'm like they want to get home to their wives. And listen, I get it. But if I had heard my husband was on a train and that was happening and he didn't stand up for her, I would think less of him as a man. Like you just do that. Anyway, all of those times, this wasn't to put down white people. It was just to say in my personal experiences, it hasn't been the young black men. It's been white men of all ages. And then one time this guy like struck up this weird conversation with me and followed me all the way to my train station, and it was an older white guy. So you can't generalize like that. So to me, that was it. My audience knows my train stories because I post them as they happen. So I thought I was just posting something that my audience could relate to. They had heard me tell these stories so many times, and I moved on. And then somehow Matt got a hold of it, and he retweeted me and was like, pink-haired woman thinks her experiences, defeat statistics. That wasn't the point. Like, there's a context to my wall. It's my friends. We're like a family. They would understand where I was coming from. But of course, he's got to pick on my hair because my opinion can't be valid. And what I wanted to know now, I don't care that he quote tweeted me. It's probably great for me. I got all kinds of exposure. However, the amount of hate and dogpiling that I got after that was so intense. Now, did it bother me? No, because I'm used to it, because I'm a public figure in the LP and various other things. But Matt probably didn't know that. Maybe he did. I hope before he quote tweeted a much smaller account, he's got millions. I haven't looked, but at least on YouTube, he's got millions of followers. I'm not sure what he has on, but he's a much larger account than me. I hope he did a tiny bit of background research, because I'm imagining how just some Joe Normie out there would feel if all of a sudden they're just on their wall talking with their circle, and next thing you know, thousands of people are dogpiling. He goes on about how bad social media is for the youth and all that. For all he knows, I had teenage kids who could have been reading about what an old hag I am and all of this other stuff that his nasty followers were saying, and it could have been pretty devastating to them. Now, I don't have children, but he doesn't know any of this. So I hope he did some research to go, oh, she's a public figure, she can handle this, because that could have been really, really mentally screwed up for someone who wasn't prepared to be dogpiled like that, because they were the meanest, nastiest people, and the racists came out in droves. Now, you may know some of my background is a theological background, and I'm not trying to get into weird religious stuff, but let's say there was something I thought was a heresy. And all of a sudden, a bunch of people who held that heresy said the reason they held it was because of me, but I didn't hold it. I would start to re-examine my messaging and go, what am I saying that's attracting and turning people into this view that I don't agree with? So Matt can say all he wants that wasn't a racist post, and he's not a racist, but undeniable racists loved that post and came out of the woodwork. If I was inspiring love from people who proudly called themselves racist, I'm not using this term really loosely. Like there was one post that even suggested that Black people need to be euthanized.
Mhm.
Undeniable racism, not going everything I don't like is racism. I would really step back and examine the way I was saying things, because obviously something's not getting across. So you either like those kinds of fans, or you're incapable of introspection. But it was an eye-opener. The Matt Walsh fandom, 90%, I'm not going to say all of them, because I'm a regular watcher of his show, but I'm not like a fan, but I'm a regular watcher. Absolutely horrid, where they thought it was appropriate, and they all just love to call me old. Yeah, I don't know how old I am. I don't count. I stopped counting at 25. It's a joke, but it's actually real. I think I'm 56 or 57. I'm proud of my years, but let's, most of these I think were young guys. You just thought it was so appropriate to just go on and dogpile and say the most absolutely disgusting things to a woman that could be someone else's mother. Like, what kind of people are you inspiring, Matt? That's real family values. It is. It's okay because I have pink hair, which is funny because I'm not a leftist. You know that. I'm a hardcore libertarian, which is unfathomable to some of those people, but we would agree on some things. But it was absolutely horrible the way they just thought it was appropriate to talk to someone on the internet. Yes, I did say GFY, Matt, because he was saying something that was just horrid about a whole demographic of people. There is violence in the Black community, undeniably, and outside. I mean, Black people commit violence, so do white people. But right now, it's not because they're Black. So let's examine if there's a problem here, the underlying causes. But to cite the statistics that infers that it's because they're Black is the last thing we need right now in this country. And I love, and you got to shut me up when you're ready to talk, because I'm the Energizer Bunny. I'll keep going. I love what Free Prince on Twitter said. He goes, okay, let's pretend you're right. Let's pretend it is just because they're Black. What do you want to do about it, Mr. Brave? You're just being brave and honest. Why don't you state he didn't word it as final solution, but why don't you just state what it is? Because if you think there's someone biologically predetermined to be violent animals, then logically you should be advocating eugenics, extermination, exile, something. So if you're going to be Mr. Brave and honest, and the only factor you're pointing out is that they're Black, then why aren't you just going all the way and taking the mask all the way off? It's just really angering to
Well, that's
me.
the thing. Like they always have to pretend it's something better than it is. And this is the thing. He loves that audience. He fucking loves that audience. Matt Walsh has curated that audience, and it's been that way this whole time. Like his movie, Am I Racist, mocking like the very idea of being an anti-racist activist. His other movie, uh, what is a woman, like mocking trans people and treating them like shit. There was this one thing that I really think typifies Matt Walsh: his intentional disinformation, intentional information withholding. I just did a multi-hour protest, so my throat is a little bit fucky. But generally speaking, here's the thing: like, and I've noticed this, the phenomenology is on point. Matt Walsh, very specifically, does not want the full information to get to people. He doesn't want both sides to get to people. He doesn't want all of the information to even reach people's ears. In his anti-trans documentary, he asked one of these people what a woman is, right? Um, and this person was like set to give an authentic and intellectual response that would have lasted like a significant period of time, explaining chromosomes, explaining the bimodal distribution, explaining science that Matt Walsh didn't want him or his audience to hear. So instead of actually including the unedited clip in his documentary, what he did was he did this like bullshit thing of like panning left to right and like doing soft edits between like the words and like cutting out huge segments and putting some background music behind it to make it seem like, oh, this guy's just crazy. He has to talk for so long. He can't just answer my question with the simple bullshit boxed in answer I want. That's what he is. He needs somebody to bully. And he's part of this ecosystem. It's not just him. It's also like the libs of TikTok. It's like the whole ecosystem is just people who search for somebody smaller than them that they can look down on and pretend they're fighting the power by going against them. So your case of being, a very small account relative to him is not the exception to the rule. It is the rule. He is a fascist in like that's what they always have to do. They have to pretend that there's a weak person that's like representative of a weak culture that is somehow simultaneously in control of everything and must be stopped in order to save civilization and return us back to a masculine time when men were men and could be the powerful people that strongman the country back into place. That's the way he is.
Yeah, and I want to make it clear, like I don't mind that he retweeted me. Actually, again, in a strange way, he did me a favor, but I it really just opened my eyes as to how that could have been really, really detrimental if it was somebody else who wasn't prepared for that. You know, I'm a tough old bird. I could handle it, but there could be some smaller accounts, and mine's not a tiny account. I've got like 39, nearly 40,000 followers, so it's not tiny. But there's some people who might just be like a cooking mom or something and have that many followers who are not prepared for what happened over those days. I've got a million views on that post right now.
Mm-hmm.
My average post, okay, gets about 2,000. I mean, I've had ones with 50,000. I've had, 20,000, whatever. I've never had a million view post. It's just not the type of content I put out. Really, just very niche libertarian stuff. So that was just I had to turn notifications off, not because they were hurting my feels, but because it was just overwhelming. I had life and work, and you know, I hit that button, the dopamine hit, so I had to like, no, this will consume my next 2 days. I've got life
Yeah.
to live.
Sometimes you just gotta walk away because like these motherfuckers will suck people dry. And like that's why I bring up libs at TikTok. It's a really good example of it. Like that Home Depot woman, for instance. I don't know if
Oh
you're
yeah.
familiar. Yeah, Like they just found she didn't matter like to the grand scheme of things. She made a joke, a joke. Trump
Yeah, no,
supporters,
the world is so much safer now that Linda got fired from Home Depot.
yeah, like she made a fucking joke about and like this is Trump just said, "Oops," after he droned probably people celebrating Ramadan. And he claimed that they were Yemeni, like evil terrorist Houthi people, and that was his reason for droning these people. And you watch this gruesome video that's like way too far out to see the grisly details, but you know what happened. That just this giant like circle of like oval of people is now dead. They are fucking dead. And he went, "Oops." He made a fucking sarcastic joke. And this woman deserved to be fired from Home Depot? Fuck you, Chaya right chick, you Zionist shill.
Yeah, you got to be, you don't know what's going on in other people's lives. And again, I'm going to say once again, I'm not a victim because Matt Walsh retweeted me. Again, it's probably I probably got lucky. I was joking to DL Cummings, oh, I made it. Matt Walsh retweeted me. But it could be done to the wrong person in a vulnerable place. And I think when you have a big account, you have to be cautious of that. I'm going to tell you a story. There was a bigger YouTube account that I had done. I don't want to say who it is because I don't really have their consent and we don't agree. It was an atheist thing. I'm not an atheist. It was just, and I did a response, but as a tiny channel, I only had a couple hundred followers. This YouTuber actually private messaged me and said, I'm planning on responding to you. Are you okay with that? Because it was a much bigger channel. And my respect for that person grew. Now they ended up not doing a response. It probably would have blew up my channel. But the fact that they recognized the power differential right there and that some of their followers may have come and me, I was like, no, I'm completely chill. I go, I'm fair game. I said something about you, respond away. But that was really, really responsible. So I sure hope Matt did some research. But here is what was even more interesting about his followers. Some people started going, well, you must not have been around a lot of Black people. Now, people don't know me. I'm not. They looked up where I lived. Castle Rock is as white as a bowl of white rice. Yes. I had one of my friends from South Florida come and visit me once, and she happens to be Black, and she's hilarious. Don't want to mention her name because I don't want to be sending people to go hate on her.
Yeah,
but
right?
she joked after a couple days here. She's like, damn, I feel like a raisin in a bowl of milk. And that's exactly what Castle Rock is like. But my stories are all from Denver. They're not from Castle Rock. Yeah. Somebody goes, you'd be lucky to find 600 Black people in Castle Rock. I go, 600? I think you're overestimating. Castle Rock's the whitest place I've ever been in my life. And I don't think that's a good thing. Where I lived in South Florida, it was like the freaking United Nations. Across the street, my neighbors were Haitian. Next door was just another just regular American white person. Then we had the Guatemalans, we had the Brazilians, we had the Hondurans. It was that I lived in South Florida. It's very, very multicultural in South Florida.
Hell, the Cubans, Afro-Cubans, some people who
Yeah.
are offloads from French tradition. Yeah. Real quick, Skerrick Longcope says Castle Rock of Castle Rock v. Gonzalez fame.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. There's a Castle Rock in Maine, so I think those are the only two Castle Rocks in the country. So I'm in Castle Rock, Colorado. So I don't know. The Castle Rock, Maine is the one that was made famous by Stephen King because he has Castle Rock Productions. That's because he sets a lot of his stories in Maine. And when I moved to Castle Rock, when I lived in South Florida, my Game of Thrones was a big thing at the time. And my boss did say, Casterly Rock? The Lannisters send their regards. But no, it's Castle Rock. It's a bedroom community. It is. It's, I live in Douglas County, which is one of the more affluent counties, but I work in Denver. Okay. Yeah. And I take the public transit. I have a 4-hour commute every day. I go 2 hours to work and 2 hours, not every day. I work from home some days. So these generalizations, people go, oh, you lied. No, it was a generalization. When I go to work, I have a 4-hour commute. But here's what's even more interesting. But I grew up in South Florida, very multicultural. But when I went to high school, I got invited to a magnet program, and the school I went to, and people got on my case and challenging me over this. It's my memory from a teenager. Maybe my stats are a little off, and I'm going to be more precise on this show. But what I said on Twitter was I went to a high school that was 98% black. And people go, "You're making that up." And I go, "Really?" Blanche Ely High School, Pompano Beach, Florida. Look it up.
Yeah.
And even today, I tried to find the demographics for when I had my first year of high school, if someone can find it. But even today, it's not 98% black, but it is 97% minority. Right now, it's 75% black, with the rest being Hispanic and other minorities. Now, maybe in my memory of when I was 16, I probably should have worded that it was 98% minority. But it was certainly vast majority of black students.
Right.
And people said I made it up. Just go look it up. I chose to go there. And I got a wonderful education, but I was in a magnet program, so that could be a whole other racial thing. But I got bussed in as a white. They were trying to get more white students, and I wanted to go there. But I wanted to tell a story of why I wanted to go there. I've said, and I'm not embarrassed by it, that I am diagnosed autistic. Everyone knows that. And it explains a lot of what happened when I was growing up. I was terribly, terribly bullied in middle school because I was different and socially awkward. And I did not want to go to high school with those people. I was supposed to go to Deerfield High School. I did not want to go there. So when I got that letter inviting me to the magnet program, and it was a pre-engineering magnet program, because I happened at that time to be really interested in science and math. Now I suck so bad at math, but still love science. I would have done anything to get away from my bullies. So my reason wasn't some racial reason, but I can tell you my parents were horrified. They're a different generation. At least my dad was. And they're like, "Oh my God, that's a black high school." I didn't care. But let me tell you something. I did not get bullied at all in high school. I was one of the popular girls in high school. The black students were much more accepting and entertained by my eccentricities, as it were. I was elected junior class president in a school where I made up 2% of the racial population, and my opponent, I remember Clinton, very capable young black man, and I got elected over him. So my experience, and this was in an impoverished area, has always been positive with black people. It doesn't mean I hate white people. I just love people. Right. But I was bullied terribly in middle school and accepted thoroughly in high school. So that's just my story. All I wanted to give was my story. That was it. And then people were saying I was lying and making it up. They were saying I was lying and making up the transit stories. I go, well, my time machine must be excellent because I knew today would come. And I went back on my Twitter timeline because I always posted about these when they happened.
Yeah, because that's what social media is. You know, that's one of the things. Like people are, "Ooh, you posted your face," or "Ooh, you posted about your life." That you must be like narcissistic. Like I get that shit. Like or some other shit like that. It's some bullshit accusation. It's like you must be insert terrible thing because ooh, you posted yourself. And it's like that's what social media is for. That's what it was originally for. The fact that we're not like constantly terminally online and constantly about politics or whatever your fucking pet cause is irrelevant, you stupid shit. Anyway.
And any of them could have gone back on my time. All they had to do is search certain keywords. They would have found the stories in my timeline. And I also posted a screenshot of when finally one of the train conductors told me to report these incidents because I only got the app a couple weeks ago. I already had a report of getting hassled. And they assume when you say, "Oh, you got arrested," people are going, "You're too ugly to get harassed." Did I say they tried to rape me or something? Or not that that's necessarily about looks either, but no, it wasn't harassed like that. It was harassed just like getting into your space. Maybe they were looking to rob me. Like I wasn't trying to insinuate that I was some hottie that all of these guys were trying to get with. You could be harassed in a lot of ways. And to be honest with you, a lot of them were homeless, and it's harassed because they have some mental problems. So they start talking really weird to you. And it's just very uncomfortable. I didn't mean people were trying to like feel me up or anything like that. It was just uncomfortable. I had to get out my pepper spray multiple times, and then after that incident with that lady who got harassed, now I've become more assertive. And on that very day that I made that Matt Walsh post, this older white guy started harassing me on the bus. And it was harassing he kept trying to talk to me in a way that made me very uncomfortable. First, he was like, I smile at everybody. I was just taught that way. So that kind of gives an entrance. People just think, oh, I say hi to everybody if they say hi to me, because I'm not above anyone. I don't care if someone's homeless. They say hi, I'm going to say hi back. That's just how I was raised. So when I got in the bus, he must have smiled or said hi, and I smiled back. And then he was like, I like your hair. And I'm like, thank you. And then I sat down and just started making it very obvious I was reading my phone or whatever. And he kept going. He goes, but I think you should do this and that with your hair. That's just like inappropriate. Okay. And he kept going. And I said, sir, I am very uncomfortable with this conversation with a stranger. Please respect that. Like, I've learned how to be assertive like this on the bus. And then he got very aggressive with me. And I looked around the bus, and everyone, you know how it is in the city. They're all like, we didn't see anything. They're looking the other way, except for one Hispanic guy who gave me. And I knew what he meant. It was I got you. If there's a problem, I got you. I ended up having to get up and move because this guy would not leave me alone. And everyone's like, oh, did everyone clap? Like I did not. This happens all the time on buses. No, everyone didn't clap. Most of them tried to pretend like they didn't hear what happened, except for this one Hispanic man. And it wasn't because he was Hispanic. It was just, it could have been anybody. But that's what comes from these generalizations.
Right.
Like, now I'm the one. I was on the train. Man, I got the train stories. And was this? Now I can't even remember the race of this person. I know people say it's racist to be colorblind, but unless it's a factor, like I just remember it was a young man. I can't remember if he was black or white, to be honest with you. And he got on with a radio and was playing it so loud it was disturbing everyone. No one would say anything. I got up and I'm like, dude, not everyone here wants to hear your playlist. I was the only one with the balls to stand up and say that. And he turned it down. Like, he ended up being cool. But like this happens, like, and for people not to believe these stories, obviously do not ride. I have to take a train and then the bus. So if you're wondering why I switched the terms, I have to take the E line to Union Station and then a bus down to my job. Anyone familiar with Denver knows Union Station and the E line. This is common. So for all these Matt Walsh stands to go, you're making that up. It's like, I don't care if you believe me. Yeah. Okay, fine.
Yeah. I get the same shit because, like, I'm in Spokane right now, Spokane, Washington, and they're like, "Oh, you're in a white place. You don't understand how it is to live with these animals." And like, fucking, I come from SoCal, motherfucker. I come from a place where there's like, probably an even mix of white people, Asians, black people, Mexicans, various like ethnic mixes of the Indians, like Jews, everybody. And I come from that. I come from like the place that every one of these cunts like spends all their time telling me is like the worst melting pot. This is liberalism, California. And then they're like, oh, no wonder. They'll move the goalpost. They're like, that explains everything. You're just a woke liberal Caryn or something like that. It's like, at some point, I just accept it. I don't care. Like, we were talking a little bit before the show about accepting labels ironically. It's like that. It's like, for instance, like my bio includes cult leader on Twitter and mentally ill furry on minds. Because, like, I don't give a shit. Like, people have called me that before. They've claimed that anybody like who supports me must be a member of a cult. Or it says like, oh, it's it's just Jeremiah's cult. So I just call myself a cult leader. My Discord is a cult. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Like, if they want to claim that, you know, and like I'll just tell people, yeah, sure, I'm a mentally ill furry. I've got bipolarism, you know, I've got like PTSD, ADHD, LMNOP, you know, throw a thing at it, probably. And like, so the whole deal, like, and I got bullied too, especially since, you know, they didn't properly diagnose me even bipolar until I was in my mid-20s. So like, I got like I got the run the gambit with that shit. And I know who primarily fucked with me. It was primarily white dudes. Like as an example, on the bus, a couple of years ago during the COVID hysteria, um, I was coming back with a birthday pizza that you can get at. Hey, this is not sponsored. I will take a sponsorship if they want to give me a sponsorship. Pizza Rita is like some of the best local pizza that I've ever had, and it's only in Spokane. So if y'all want to go there, feel free. That's not sponsored. But I was coming back because at the time they were doing a promotion for free birthday pizza. All you did is show your ID, and they would give you a pizza. It's a large pizza. It's not even a small one. It's like a full size. And so I went there. I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to get that. And I'm on my way back with it. And because I wasn't wearing a mask and because I told the bus driver that I wasn't jabbed or wearing a mask, this like somewhat overweight white dude like fucking gets all hostile and says, you know, like, some of us have kids, some of us, et cetera, and he tries to fucking basically carrying me off the bus about it. And I had to hold my ground on my birthday, trying to enjoy myself on my birthday with this, you know, fucking. I mean, I don't fat shame normally, but if you're gonna tell me that like, oh, my lack of vaccination is such a problem and like I'm a public health hazard, obesity is the primary thing that like was correlated with COVID like mortality. So maybe you could pipe down and up your cardio a little bit, you know. But like, and I told him things like that. He threatened me with physical violence, and I says, "Well, I don't want to do that, but if you want to fucking do that, then I guess fine." And he never took me up on it. But like, he threatened me. I've been threatened literally because of my vaccination status by white dudes. White dudes are
Yeah,
the
and you know, yeah.
yeah.
And next week I might get harassed by a black guy. It could
Yeah.
happen. That was just kind of like my whole point. And you know, he's fear mongering against a certain demographic. And you want to point to the statistics. I'm sorry, I've got a lisp, and that word's not kind to two people with a lisp.
And my
Then
fucking
find.
voice is fucked from the protest, so I understand. Like I
Yeah.
like ran basically 10 miles to it, so yeah, fucking I get it.
And I know DL Cummings did a show the morning after, you know, talking about, you know, the other factors that are more correlative. And I'm not into that. Like people, they immediately, what I enjoy most about my pink hair is the assumptions that people make. Like they immediately think like I'm some barking moonbat leftist, and I'm not. You know, I'm not.
Yeah, that's my job. You can't
Yeah,
take
it's your
my
job,
job.
exactly.
Yeah. Going down to
Long-haired, freaky people.
down to the fucking anti-Trump and Elon Musk protest today, liberaling it up.
So, I even forgot where it was, but I love those assumptions, but I even forgot where I
DL
was going with
Cummings.
that. Oh, so he's like there's other factor, and unless again you're saying it's just because they're black. So okay, yeah, this is what I was gonna say. Don't look at the pink hair and think that I'm going all full reparations, because I'm not. I don't believe in reparations, which people think I do because I have pink hair. But you can't forget the past either. I'm not saying you're responsible for it. You're responsible for it. But when you're looking at the present is a product of the past. So there is this statistic. We're much better to ask why. You don't think it has something to do with policies that were in place that discourage generational wealth, or when there were thriving black communities, you know, every so often they just got destroyed by, you know, people who in our past, which was more racist. You know, Denver used to be ran by the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
Like, should I now impugn all white people to go, there's a high correlation between being white and being in the Klan. No, it's not because you're white. Like it's just there's so many other factors, and the state's welfare programs that punished having a father in the home. And then that became almost like a tradition. There's so much fatherlessness, and you don't think that makes a difference. So there's high correlations to poverty. No, being poor doesn't make you violent, but it can make you desperate, and it can make you callous, and it can make you just not care.
Right.
It makes you feel like an animal, and then sometimes you will act it out in ways. So it's a lot of different factors that come into place.
And they
Like
know that to some extent. They did the same. They do the same thing all the time to like people like Kelly Thomas. Beat the fuck out of that guy. He was delusional, schizophrenic, screaming for his mom, and he fucking died in his like corpuscles, just beaten to an absolute actual rubbery pulp in the hospital because they fucked him up because he had somebody else's mail, and he had somebody else's mail because he was like, mentally ill. And instead of treating mental illness in this country, we foster an environment that hates the mentally ill, that, calls them names, that treats them poorly, that fucks them over. And when you're like experiencing generational tragedy like Black people have, you're going to have higher rates of that mental illness, and that problem is going to persist. And so, like, to me, I'm not necessarily reparations, but I am like, it would sure improve their lot in life if they finally got their 40 acres and a mule that they were promised. Like, it would sure improve their lot in life to finally start being able to build that without being lynched for touching a woman when they didn't. Like, false accusations, fucking building the stigma around them with racist cartoons. The culture. It's always the US helped Nazis before, during, and after World War II for a reason. And it's because the US loves Nazism. They just can't go mask off. And that's what Matt Walsh is to a certain extent. He is mask off that. I mean, he plays some pleasantry games, like, to begin with, but like, he's pretty much just an open face.
It's so funny when you and I talk, because you're much more radical left than I am, but
Yeah,
that's good.
I'm the commie.
Yeah, but listen, I think that's good. Like, I like talking to people who have different points of view than I have. You're much more radical on that than I am. But we're coming together, on this issue. I'm not a reparationist, but you want to know what I am? A recollectionist, a recognitionist. That, I've often said, and this kind of new doom and gloom, and I know the Make America Great people won't like me saying this, but there's a part of me that thinks America is doomed from the womb because of how we started. We had these ideals of freedom for everyone, but we didn't get rid of slavery at the founding. And I know they did that to try to keep the country together. Was it worth it? Oh my God, could we have been so much more noble if the founders, and there were founders who recognized slavery was bad, and there were some who didn't, that if only we had eliminated it right then, we really could have been the greatness that we see in our own minds. I grieve for the fact that we didn't do that. We cannot ignore that in going back to the 1800s isn't that long ago. If you look at world history, it's not that long ago. So it's not that long ago that literally we thought it was okay to literally own people in this country. That's just unfathomable to me. But what's more unfathomable and sobering is all of us would like to think if we grew up and were born and raised in the South, we would have been the different ones. But statistically, we wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Statistically, we would have had the same attitude towards Black people as they did then. And I think, and some people get mad at me for saying that, but like people get mad at me for saying a lot of things. You're a lot of times you're the product of your environments.
Yes.
I don't think the vast majority of people in the South were inherently evil. It's how they were raised, and we can see the evilness of it now that we're so far removed. Now, I hope, I wish to, like, I pray if I was born in the South that I would have been an abolitionist, but chances are I wouldn't have been, or neither would have you or anyone else that's listening to us. It's, you know,
Do,
you're raised with that.
do you like
So
industrial music?
I do.
Ministry, So What? That's a great song.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I do like industrial music.
So Ministry, So What is this longish song, and it's a song about how the reason the youth are violent is because of the system, of the media, of the like sort of the surrounding environment that they were brought up in. And like it cuts in with like this respectability politics thing, like this interstitial guy. I forget who he was. I looked it up like once, but like basically there was this line in the song, like, you know, like they're product of their environment when they're raised by adults who don't demonstrate anything fine and good or worthy of respect. You know, that's it. These people created that shit. That's the whole point of Marilyn Manson, is that they created this monster. That's the whole point.
I'm going to tell you something funny. Like, I'm way more interesting than you think I am, if you think I'm interesting at all.
Oh,
Um,
I do, absolutely.
I used to be in a death metal band. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't.
Um, I was in the local scene with Marilyn Manson when they were coming up in South Florida, because they're from South Florida too. They
Very
were
cool.
Marilyn Manson and the Spooky Kids at that time. And I would play, my band would play in venues with them. So I remember they used to walk around with lunch boxes.
Yeah.
That, anyone who knows any Marilyn Manson lore knows that I'm telling you how it is. But there was a thriving alternative metal and just alternative weird scene in South Florida at that time. There's an obscure metal band named Cynic that we were good friends with. My ex-husband went on a world tour with a thrash metal band named Atheist, which some of you may know. I was in a band that my band opened up for King Diamond at the Cameo Theater in Miami Beach. We played with Pantera before they were big. This goes way back. Anyway, I didn't know if you knew any of that.
I didn't.
But
You gotta throw me some links if you've got them.
there's stuff on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, it's my misspent youth. Like, I had a wild and crazy youth. But as a bass player, in case you were curious what my role was, I broke my ankle stage diving into the wrong spot.
Yeah, understandable. Yeah. I that's the thing, like I'm big into all this shit, cuz like when I was a kid, I was like fucking boring. Like when I was a kid, as a super young kid, like high school especially, like I was fucking boring, like to a certain extent. But I also had some weird shit about me. Like I would have been a Matt Walsh fan in high school. I wanted to militarize the border, and put automated turrets on a border wall to keep the criminals out. I wanted to glass the Middle East and
Mhm.
and put up corporations there. I wanted to civilize them, and civilize the world through Christian nationalism. Basically, I was a fascist, and like a whole lot of stuff artistically, um, you know, in terms of people who actually were patient with me. Lots of minorities, both sexual, racial, some religious, you know, like those people being in my life is what helped break my brain away from it. And like so many of these people, I think, just isolate themselves. They aren't willing to be in a death metal band and get in front of people and look at the diversity of a crowd and be like, yo, this is actually like a thriving community of where people can unite over cool shit like this. They're not interested in going into meat space. They're not interested in talking to other people. They're satisfied with getting a significant amount of social media engagement and connecting with their fellow white people to talk about how they're going to Deus Volt us back into the, you know, the proper Reich. You know, like maybe these people should just go the fuck outside.
And I was talking with you before the show started, where I'm super reluctant to use the fascist word.
Right,
Said,
right.
and you go, oh, I'm not. Yeah, that's fine. Um, it, it, what my deep concern is, as I expressed to you, is rising Christian nationalism. Now, I'm a
Right.
Christian, by the way, in case some people don't know that. But when the Christian right was in the ascendancy a while ago, if you remember the Reclaim America for Christ movement and stuff like
Mm,
that. So after I got out of the death metal band, I I'm a person of extremes. I think that's kind of pretty obvious now.
yeah.
I became a born again Christian and went right into fundamentalism. Okay. Not healthy, not good. I was part of all that. I went to the Reclaiming America for Christ conference in Fort
Yeah.
Lauderdale, Florida. So I recognize Christian nationalism when I see it. And that's more what I see in Matt and Michael Knowles, more particularly, as I said to you. I think they are budding Christian nationalists. And I don't want that as a Christian. And what was so funny is I still listen to a lot of fundamentalists. I listen to a lot of people because I just like hearing the points of view. And
Right.
there's this fundamentalist pastor that I still listen to that is very concerned about Christian nationalism as well, because he says it's the state ruling the church. But it's funny what this person wants, and I'm going to be pointing a clip of it on my show, is basically the church ruling the state. So just in an opposite direction. But this particular preacher that I listened to is a Baptist, and if anyone knows a lot about Baptist history, when the state was ran by the church at that time, it was mostly the Catholic Church. Not to put down Catholics or anything like that, but they weren't the biggest fans of Baptists back then, and the state executed Baptists for heresy. So it's funny. He pointed out the way some of these. Now I know Matt's a Catholic and Michael Knowles is a Catholic, but like Stephen Wolfe and a lot of these others that are really promoting Christian nationalism, they're Baptists of all people. It's like, dude, did you learn nothing from history? you know?
Well,
Anyway.
But that's part of the thing. Like, people need to learn from history to learn how many of the signs and symptoms they're repeating from like the most totalitarian societies. And for instance, Michael Knowles, he directly got up on stage to thunderous applause from CPAC saying that trans people must be eradicated from public life. And by doing that, if you do that successfully, they'll either have to conform or the state will use violence against them. That's the only way.
Well,
this happens.
the way he parses it out. I watch a lot of Michael Knowles. It's
Right.
mostly for content. I'm going to plug my channel right
Go
now.
for it. Do it.
So if you go to Pink Flame of Liberty, Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh are like some of my favorite topics because they just give the best, just little things to respond to. I used to do Ben Shapiro a lot, but he's actually kind of toned down in a way. I mean, he's really into the Israel thing, but the wild like social stuff he doesn't do as much anymore. It's Knowles and Walsh. So, and I used to clip Candace, but now Candace is just like Miss Conspiracy now, and I'm not a big conspiracy person. I
I
watch
am.
her shows well. I watch her shows as well. I think she's
Yeah.
much more interesting now that she's not on the Daily Wire, though. I like her a lot better. She was very, very uptight and prissy on the Daily Wire. Now she's just kind of like scattergun. She's so bizarre that it's like she's the new Alex Jones in a way. It's
I could see that.
entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's entertaining. I do watch her. And I did like her comment where somebody had said her very presence made them feel threatened, and she said, "Get a helmet. I'm too pregnant for this." And I'm sorry, that was funny. I don't care who you are. And I lost my complete train of thought again because I was just laughing about that. Oh, yeah, don't even remember. Don't
So,
even. Oh, so yeah, nope, don't remember. I'm old.
my,
I'm old and I
so,
have pink hair.
so we were talking about like Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh, how like they're sort of taking over for Ben Shapiro in
Yeah,
like
well, it's very, I mean, they want the state to enforce Christian, quote unquote, Christian morals. You know, Matt has made, oh, I know what I was getting to. You know, the way Michael Knowles parses out the statement you brought up is he said that he didn't say transgender people, he said transgenderism.
Uh-huh.
And he parses that out. But again, what does that mean? You know,
Well,
that
no, I
that
didn't.
that is
I didn't say I wanted to eradicate every Christian. I just said I wanted to eradicate Christianity from
yes,
public life.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think both Matt and Michael have said, and I do ask their forgiveness if they haven't, because it's my recollection that they have, but I'm acknowledging right here that I might be mistaken. Like, they want gays back in the closet. Like,
Yes.
no, we don't want to make homosexuality illegal, but we do want to make it so that like nobody knows you're gay, you
Right.
know, that sort of thing. I'm nearly positive one or both of them said that, but I don't like misrepresenting people. They say enough bad things. I don't need to make things up, but
I can
I'm fairly
corroborate that.
certain they both said that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can corroborate that. Yeah.
So, and Matt's doubling down. I went and looked at his feed a bit on this whole black thing, and the racists are lapping it up.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing though. Like, Matt is an outrage farmer, but he outrage farms in a single direction, basically. And he does this to play it safe. Like, the Daily Wire crew, Matt Walsh, Jeremy Boring, Michael Knowles, Ben Shapiro, they ain't gonna say fucking shit about Netanyahu. They ain't gonna say fucking shit about the genocide except do more of it. They're not going to oppose the genocide in Yemen because Daddy Trump is in charge, you know, and he's giving them what they want, so they're accepting being pawns in his 5D 80,000 chess, you know, and so like ultimately these people, like they're basically accepting their position in order to get a higher position in what they believe that they're a part of, and like they'll do anything. Like they're basically whores. Matt Walsh posted a video that is so insipidly dumb, unless you're a fascist, and it's like Sonic the Hedgehog 3 broke me as a father. And it's all about how while he wasn't paying attention, he knows that it's a terrible movie and it's a sign of the times, and you know, this is the culture that we live in now, and I hate everything. It's just so absolutely insipid. It's garbage. It's the bottom of the barrel. But he did it, and he got mass downvoted because, you know, he also directly called out Sonic fans. He said the Sonic community, as though that's, you know, a terrible thing to be a part of. And it's like, he is fine wading into that territory because the more people are talking about him, the more his fame accelerates, the more he becomes infamous, and the more he can then like find all these fine-tuned little examples of people who he can then claim make his point. And this is what happened to you. He found you. He said to himself, this person is the typification. She has pink hair. She, you know, she's making these SJW points of woke liberal. Oh, the blacks aren't that bad because insert experience that I totally didn't make up. You know, he's got that framework, and his audience loves it because they're there for that framework because they also have that framework. They're totally fine with accepting the worst non-arguments. What is a Woman is not a documentary. It's a series of lies. Am I Racist is a series of lies. The Daily Wire is a long series of lies. And maybe there's some truth peppered in here occasionally. But, you know, if that truth does exist, it's certainly not, you know, consistently ethically sourced. They're not doing it so that they can like actually come to a nuanced conclusion. They're doing it because they can use it as fodder in their like grand scheme. So like they try to find people to pick on. And this is what this right-wing ecosystem does. PragerU does it. Libs of TikTok, Daily Wire, you know, like Steven Crowder, all these people as part of this giant ecosystem, usually funded by very similar people too, like the Wellness Foundation or whatever that thing is. You know, like it's all the same cluster fuck of grift. And like you'll find so many times that when these people blow up, there is so much behind the scenes because they have been keeping it from people to curate their image, and also as blackmail, so that if you go against the system that they're building, if you go against this structure, they will fucking end you. And so like they're all too scared to like pull that trigger. Candace Owens stepped away from the system to a certain extent that they have built, and she was thrown under the motherfucking bus for it, but she said enough true things that the people who were with her on the other side were okay with that. They were okay with still backing her, right? So that's what they need. They need people who are okay with being obsequious and knuckling under and following the agenda and not stepping off of it, not punching right, not doing anything that might rock the boat, because that boat is a gravy boat. And it makes Matt Walsh just huge amounts of money. Ben Shabibo, all these people, fucking Tom McDonald making rap songs with Rosie O'Donnell where she says obnoxious lines like, screw Eminem, I'm Roseanne, as though that's not the most cringy thing you've ever heard. These people are like, if they didn't have an audience of worthless people who were like this to you and so many other people, they wouldn't have an audience.
I want to tell you something funny. So I went, and just because I haven't been paying attention to just some of the comments on Matt's post, because I was riling him up a little bit. So on his post, I posted like a picture of me with a gun because, you know, I just want to give them something. It's because, oh, in chat, somebody asked if I hate the ATF. Of course I hate the ATF. I'm a libertarian. Come on. So, and then they're trying to claim that it was a photo op and that I wasn't really shooting it. This is just how they cannot get out of their box. And then they blew up the picture and they go, oh, but you're closing your left eye. Yeah, I have that bad habit when I shoot. A lot of people do. I can't shoot with both eyes open. I have to aim. That's just how I am. I do it with my bow too. And I posted a bow picture too, because I like going compound bow shooting. And this is the type of comments. I'm old enough that I really don't care what people said about me. Like, you know, like Candace says she's too pregnant for this. I'm just too old for this. I don't care. So this is the type of classy people. I just post a bow picture. And somebody has to comment, I didn't know a cow could stand on two legs. It's like, would you say that to me, to my face, if my husband was standing next to me? You little basement dwelling, hot pocket eating punk. It's just like stupid.
Exactly.
Completely. And but this is what they're emboldened to do. Now, on my feed, if people start continually acting like that, I jump in and like take it elsewhere. Like, this is just not what I want in my life. You know, not saying you should always be tone policing, and sometimes people will spout off, and you got to let that happen for a while. But when it's routinely, like on his thread, I was called to see you next Tuesday more times than I can count. Fat, ugly hag, and I'm not even fat. I might be ugly. I might be a hag. I don't give a fuck.
I get called fat too. I don't feel fat. I feel kind of fine.
Yeah. I'm not fat, but I do got some junk in the trunk. I like my fat ass, but it's just
insipid.
Stupid.
It's insipid.
Yeah.
It's the scum that's stuck to the bottom of the scum in the bottom of the barrel, and that's who Matt Walsh constantly has to appeal to. Yeah. Also,
yeah, it's
go.
Yeah, but yeah, so reading those, but I can imagine that could be pretty harmful for some people to read that. It would really, you know, you can only read you're a piece of shit so many times before it does get to you. It even gets to me after a while, but I have a much higher threshold for it. I'm in the LP, baby. There's very little you can do to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but that's the thing though. Like, Matt Walsh started out as a shock jock. He was basically TMZ. He bottom of the barrel. He had his employees, one of whom had a Nazi swastika tattoo at the time. He had two of his employees mud wrestle in his backyard in diapers. They were interns, and he said that this was how the intern might earn a raise.
Is that where Sweet Baby Gang came from?
Yes.
Okay, I was wondering where that came from.
And so
Everyone can tell I do watch Matt Walsh. I know I actually made a goat joke. So if you haven't watched recently, his wife conned him into buying 2 goats, which is a hilarious story when he tells it. So when he started going after me and some of his fan club goes, well, I might have pink hair, but at least I didn't get conned into buying 2 goats. So
yeah. So that, like, but when he was in his shock jock days, back on the radio, back when people didn't know his face as much, he went on this really long, really weird rant about how, like, it used to be 16-year-olds were considered adults. And like a 16-year-old was a woman, not a girl. This is how it was, like, throughout all of history. And he made it seem as though the fact that modern society does not consider that to be true is a sign of failure, and that we need to go back to when that was the case. Additionally, in his "What is a Woman" fucking jack off fest, he went to visit this tribe in, like, Africa, and he like romanticized this tribe, like, oh, the fact that they don't know what a trans person is, the fact that they don't, like, respect the idea of, like, different genders and shit, the fact that that isn't on their radar means that it shouldn't be on ours either. But you know what it is on their radar? Female genital mutilation in their mid-teens, where they cut off enough of the like,
I'm aware
yeah,
of what it is.
yeah,
You have me crossing my legs.
yeah,
Like when you talk to guys about, yeah,
yeah,
I'm doing like, yeah.
yeah. So maybe if he's going to oppose genital mutilation, he shouldn't be, like, supporting a tribe that does that and holding up their views on women. Maybe if he's going to call, like, trans people groomers and be part of that, like, entire ecosystem, he shouldn't be supporting the idea that a 16-year-old is acceptable to fuck. Like, when we're dealing with these people, we're dealing with evil. Like, Epstein's youngest victim was 14. That's not far off from 16. And the other person who agrees with that, the 16, who wants an untouched, pure, innocent 16-year-old, his words, Nick Fuentes, who's, a Nazi. So this is what that ecosystem fosters. It fosters filth. It fosters people who pretend to be Christians while they're being abjectly, fucking blasphemous, abjectly, like, refusing to follow Christ in any meaningful way, and using that as an excuse to bolster policies that we can both agree end in Christian nationalism, that I would just call overt fascism. So that's why they're after you. You became the person who's simultaneously weak and simultaneously in charge of everything, and a sign of what we have to destroy. They have to constantly have a new person like that, like, all the time, on a constantly rotating Rolodex, so that they can continue the myth, even while the entire fucking government basically is Republican right now, even while Trump is in office, even while they're removing Stonewall from the LGBT website and removing a significant amount of stuff from literal history. This is an evil administration. These people have to pretend that this, like, right-wing power that's in charge is only doing good stuff, and they have to consistently pretend that actually there's still a problem, that like, the government is still controlled by them Democrat leftists, which is a hilarious contradiction most of the time. Because if they don't, they lose their power and their social capital and their money and their eyeballs, because they're not reifying these people's jack-off notions. Like, that's
Well,
that's
you know me, I can't stand either of them on there. Yeah, I'm just a simple anarchist. So
yeah, same. But, like, I'm one of those anarchists that, like, I helped some of the chants today talking about how, like, love not hate makes America great and shit like that. Fucking
it would be funny. Like, I don't know. So allegedly, Matt says he's going to be doing a show on this whole thing. I don't know whether my tweet's going to feature in it. I bet you it will, because the pink-haired one, like, it's someone to point and laugh at. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Doesn't matter to me either way. Again, more exposure. People will get curious, look it up, and if they get exposed to libertarian ideas, I'm happy. I can take it. So I don't. He's been quote tweeting a lot of people, so who knows who he's going to be using. But I suppose we shall see. But if he found out that I not only have pink hair, but am an anarchist, I'm sure he's just going to have a field day with that one. But
yeah,
doesn't bother me in the slightest.
yeah, and real quick, because I know you got to wrap soon, so I don't want to keep you too
Because
much
I gotta do
longer.
my roots. Come on, dude. Look at this.
Yeah, right. Like the racist joke of the show will be that the roots are too dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Liberimer in chat has some things, and I want to make sure I address them. First off, Michael Valoff says Ohio love for Caryn Ann.
Yes. Hello, Michael.
And Kareem also says he wants you to join him in doing a libsoak takeover. I don't think that's gonna happen with you, but
Yeah, that's not going to happen with me. However, let me tell you something that's not going to happen. There's no more takeovers. I was always opposed to the takeover language. I don't know if you realize that, Jeremiah, but I even did a show with Dave Smith and Michael Heiss that I was opposed to the takeover language. I just don't. It engendered exactly the type of resentment I thought it would.
Yeah.
That's just that rhetoric was never good, and I was never in favor of it. But let's put the rhetoric aside to what it means. People think, just like young Black men may be engaged in violence today, doesn't come from out of the blue. The quote unquote Mises takeover didn't come out of the blue either. And a lot of people have some dealing with it to do. And I think a lot of people have accountability to take. Now, some people go, that you're one to talk. No, I do take accountability for whatever part I played that led to some of this ugliness. I have a lot of regrets, and I've been very open about them. And people who have felt like they were personally wronged, if I agree that it was a wrong, I've given them apologies. I don't apologize for things I'm not sorry for, but things that I am, I have. But there is a reality that when they went after me in 2021, that was a big catalyst point for the takeover.
Right.
I don't care who you like or don't like on the LNC. I'm not a fan of removal. If someone is legitimately elected, just find a way to work around them if you don't like them.
Eat around the apple core.
Right. But the people who supported the way they went after me in 2021, they have some personal accountability to take themselves and realize that wasn't the best way to handle things. And did I handle things perfectly? Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
But so we all have some stepping back to do, and we all have different ownership pieces to take. But for my piece, and I'm sorry this is going off a little bit, but it just it came up in chat. I have a naive streak through me. I did not see what some people says was obvious from the beginning. And I don't think a lot of rank and file Mises people did either, that they were in it for the right thing. I know some people don't want to believe that. But once I saw what was going on, which I don't think it was from the beginning, I'm sorry, I don't agree with people who say it was that way from the beginning. But I quit. You might not always agree with me, but I just want people to know when I'm doing something at the time, I sincerely believe it's the right thing to do. Sometimes looking back, it's not. Let me give you an example. Back when Arvin Vohar was the lightning rod, you might remember, I voted for his removal. I regret that vote. That was the wrong thing to do. So, I have no problem saying when I done fucked up. What's an AA, Ron? You done fucked up, AA, Ron. Mm-hmm. Well, I have. And when I do, I try to make it right. And when I saw this whole we're going to support Trump thing, and I quit. I quit on the spot. I quit like like suddenly. But I don't consider everyone who's on that side that I used to be on enemies. There's some that I think are really, really bad actors, and some I was deceived for a while.
Some
So
I'm
I'm
sure are
hoping
fine people.
I, I'm not trying to go that route, but
I know. See, I am a cunt though. I have to be at least
yeah,
one
I know
bit of
you're
that
just
on
being
the screen.
sarcastic, ass. So
Yeah,
that's okay.
yeah.
I'm just hoping instead of a takeover, we have maybe a grace over where everyone who wants to keep the Libertarian Party libertarian, that we make the past the past. I've made the past the past. There's a lot of people I think wronged me, and I know there's a lot of people who think I've wronged them. Got it, whatever. I'm not going around demanding apologies and things like that. The past is the past. I want to save this party. That is my ultimate and utmost goal. And I'm putting aside like the ego stuff. But if there is somebody that like thinks they need to have a talk with me or whatever, my phone number is public. Like if
Mhm.
it's not going to freak you out, I don't mind giving it here on the show. It's been public for 15 years. I've only gotten 2 bad calls. Call me 561-523-2250. But if I don't think I did wrong, I don't apologize for things I don't think I did wrong.
Which is the way to
But
go. Fake
yeah,
apologies. We live in a culture where like people are indoctrinated from a young age to say sorry as though they have to do it even though they're not. A fake apology is not an apology at all. Either you mean it and actually think you did something wrong, or it means dog shit. And so many people are just like they're okay with that mentality. I think that's terrible. And it also creates obsequiousness. Fuck that shit.
no, but I did fall into that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the group of haters,
Yeah.
and I regret that. I
Hater here.
do. Well, I probably called you that at one
Yeah.
point, and you didn't even know it, but I don't recall doing that, but I'm sure I did. And I regret that. That was collectivization. And, but to give, just so people understand how people fall into this, because I think this is the same thing with the Matt Walsh crowd.
Mm.
So after 2021, I was super, super devastated. And when I joined Mises, they were real kind to me. They love bombed me. And now I'm not saying it was on purpose. Like cults will do that manipulatively. But it is, in fact, what happened. So that's where I got my acceptance. And when you've been deeply hurt and a group takes you in and loves you, it becomes very painful to not to the slightest bit of unacceptance from them. You'll do anything to keep favor. I was in a very, very vulnerable space.
Yes.
That doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right, but it makes it understandable. That's something my pastor used to say. When you're looking at somebody who did something wrong, try to understand why. It doesn't make it right, but you humanize that other person and it makes it understandable. But it also made me humanize the people who were there were some people who were really hateful too against the Mises people, okay? But I then it put me in a place where what place of hurt are they coming from? And to understand more, and that's where I want this party to go. I want us to put aside the past animosities we can. Now, if there are people who don't want the Libertarian Party to be libertarian, I don't hate them or want to be mad with them. I want them to go where they're going to be happier, which is not the Libertarian Party, because we're going to be libertarian.
So, if, for instance, you were an affiliate who said American violence is predominantly a black problem, New Hampshire actually has a lower murder rate than Canada because we have so few blacks. It's extremely damaging to the libertarian movement to platform people who spread these kinds of lies in response to somebody saying America has a violence problem, not white America, not black America, America.
I saw this tweet, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, you're probably not going to like my answer. One thing I don't, you're going to like it and not like it. You're going to realize maybe I'm being a bit of a politician, and politicians are gross. I get it. One thing, a lesson I have learned. See, I'm trying to learn lessons from everything that happens. I'm never completely right. Everyone has a little bit of wrong and a little bit of right.
Right. I'm a fucking asshole about a lot of things. I am not like Sometimes I have to offer severe apologies.
As an LNC member, um, and I've been practicing this since the beginning of the year. We need to make more decisions as an LNC. So I'm keeping my individual mouth shut on a lot of things. So what you had just said is something the
Hmm.
LNC may need to look at, but me as an individual officer, I
Yeah,
need to be a little bit more, let me talk with my LNC members and we speak
right.
with one voice. Now,
Right.
some people may not like that. They may have liked the more mouthy me before, but this is what's called maturing into a leadership role. So I'm sorry if some people, or if you're disappointed that I'm just not
Eh,
going to go off, but I'm not.
well, no, like I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, in the
Yeah,
past me, I would have just had diarrhea of the mouth. So that's a lesson I've learned, and
yeah.
I hope people have seen that growth.
Well, and for me, like that's the role I serve because like you know me, like I'm the anarchist asshole chucking rocks from the sidelines. Like I get involved only so much as to find the corruption and post about it,
Mhm.
and very little do I actually participate
Mhm.
in any of the actual politicking because I feel like that puts me too much in the middle of it, and it makes me less able to be objective. If I don't start, like, if I, for instance, chuck rocks at only one group of people or only one people, and I'm not chucking rocks at everybody, people are going to be like, oh, so we see where the rocks are going. So like I have to be a rock chucker for the entire thing. That's my role. So for me, for my, like, and I understand what you're doing there. Like
Mhm.
my whole point in there was I have to say that because my audience would think I'd be
Yeah.
body snatched if I hadn't. But like,
I mean, obviously, I don't agree with that statement. I think that's obvious from this whole thing.
yeah,
But what to do about it, that's more a higher level conversation than me as just an individual person can say. Because
absolutely.
I'm a member of a body, and we need to cohesively, speak with one voice. I do what I can to try to steer the party in the right direction, and that's my concern right now. I don't want this to be the last LNC. I
Right.
want to see the party survive. And, I'm going to do whatever I can and swallow whatever pride I have to in order to see that happen.
Yeah. And real quick, so just to Liberimer's points, I'm going to read them. You can respond should you choose.
Sure.
You are under no obligation to do
Oh, no,
so.
I'm sure I'll want to. I
Uh,
saw some of them.
yeah,
Uh,
Liberimer says just replace the word woke with Jew whenever these people talk. That's an amusing thought exercise. Hitler literally did that, making the Jews the weak people who also ruin the world and must be stopped. I don't think half of the Trump supporters can even point to Yemen on a map. Probably not, let alone think of the Yemenis as people. It's part of the MO, build a large toxic following that you then wield as a weapon against smaller accounts. The smaller accounts never have the resources or experience to respond to the massive followers you send at them, which prevents them being able to respond as effectively in the discourse.
Yeah, that's true. But you know me, Jerem. Like I'll say, and I say this with pride. I don't care. I'm in. A friend of mine said this. This is text. I'm enjoying my dotage. Those of you who don't know what dotage is, it's like your cranky old years. I am a tough old bird, and they are not getting to me. I'll kiss my libertarian booty. Like your insults just roll off. I come from a past marriage. I used to be married to a police officer. I was domestically, I had domestic violence issue. I grew up with domestic violence issues. My dad was a minor mobster. There is nothing you are going to say in your petty little man, petulant little boy words that are going to hurt my precious little feels. Sorry
Yeah,
to disappoint you.
yeah. He also says Hispanic people are so cool. Pisses me off so much how Trump wants to remove them. These experiences are so weird to me since I'm a rural dude. Only time I ever rode public transit was with Jeremiah. Yeah, he visited
Mhm.
Spokane. There are some people who've actually spoken to me in person, and they can guarantee you I'm actually kind of worse in person. Like I'm, because then I don't have to worry about getting banned from social media. I can just say the thing. So, um,
No, Hispanic Hispanic people are super cool. I grew up in South
Yeah,
Florida, so it's mostly Cubans. I
yeah,
grew up around a ton of Cubans. So if so, this is what I have to say about the people who are racist against Cubans, Hispanics, or Black people. If they'll forgive my gringo accent, El taro encanado todos son caminos. So broken Spanish, I get it, but those of you who speak it will know what I just said. It's Spanish saying that in English doesn't translate well, but it means to a crazy car, everything's a road. So
mhm.
it basically means to someone with ulterior motive, everyone's a means to an end. You just run them over and use them for everything. So that's one of my favorite Spanish sayings. So I hope I proved a little bit of my South Florida bona fides there. I can speak un
Yeah,
poco español.
yeah. I learned a tiny amount of it so that I could work better at Jack in the Box when I'd lived in that hellhole for a bit. Yeah, like, and you know that's one of the cool things. So I'm assuming because you're into some underground shit and you're from SoFlo, basically, that you were into Immortal Technique.
I don't know what that. Nope, I don't. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yo,
I moved from there a while. I used to live in Pompano, which is Broward County. Spent a lot of time in Dade County, but then when I got married, moved up to Palm Beach, which is a little bit more affluent,
yeah,
if that's the way we want to word it. And there was a really big Jewish community where I became very, very familiar with a lot of Jewish people. And I'm not a fan of the state of Israel, and that does not make someone anti-Semitic because I
right.
freaking love Jewish people. Those are some of the best people you could live around. I worked in Boca Raton forever. I used to work at Service Merchandise. I'm really dating myself because they've been gone for a while. But
Mm,
anyone from South Florida, if you remember the Service Merchandise on Glades Road out west, I was the office manager there. So
mm,
there you go.
yeah. Well, Immortal Technique, if you decide you want to listen to a radical leftist, he's a rapper, and he's part of this ecosystem with people like Ill Bill and Vinnie Paz, who are also in like those people are hooked up with like the nonfiction band sort of outfit, and like all of that, like is directly affiliated with things like ELP through those ecosystems, who is part of Run the Jewels. If you just want to dive down an underground hardcore hip hop rabbit hole that starts in South Florida, I believe that's though I think it's mostly cultural. I don't think he's from there. I think he's just like, if maybe I'm misremembering it, because I think he's from like he got his start in New York, but I might be misremembering. All I know is that he's Afro-Cuban and that's the sort of cultural roots of his
Yeah.
mentality. And most people don't even know that Afro-Cubans exist. That you explain to them that, oh yeah, there were a bunch of black people that came out of Cuba, because that's the way that the settlers sort of settled it, that Spanish people moved around. He has this line that when they came here, they raped the black and Indian women, creating Latinos, um, and uh, like the Tainos also, especially. And when you start to analyze these things, like through that sort of lens of conquest and like trying to maintain your cultural identity, a lot of these sorts of cultural like mores make a lot more sense. And you can start to look at it. This is if you have empathy and research skills and two neurons to rub together, which is Matt Walsh's audience's weak point, among many others. Like the general gist is like that's a whole rabbit hole. So yeah, like also real quick, I'm gonna respond. So uh Liberimer says Washington is a duty to retreat state about the fat guy that tried to fight me. Yeah, but they also have consensual dueling laws, so we could have gone and found a cop and said, hey, yay, watch us fight for a bit until I make this tub of goo into a different type of paste. And then the cop would have said, like, at this certain point, he would have been like, yo, this is getting too extreme. This fight is now stopped. You're the winner. And neither of us would have gone to jail. That's how Washington works. It's how it should work everywhere, at least to some extent. I think it should be even without a cop there is allowed. Because if two people want to fuck each other up, what's the business of the government?
We're now getting peak libertarian here.
Yeah. Yeah. Like and like I'm a big fan of street beefs. If they start a street beefs in Spokane, I'm going to be a regular. That's a dirty like yard octagon where it's like very informal and they just beat the fuck out of each other. It's excellent. But like everything's respect play. Like the street beefs thing is a community. They like each other because it's like you stepped in the ring with me, motherfucker. Respect. You know, it's like there's very few actual beefs in the street beefs community. They just call it that because how it originally started was people who had beef would just like go into the ring. And it's like, yeah, that still happens, but it's mostly just a respect thing now. Now, if you go into street beefs, you might actually make it into the pros fighting because it's on video and everybody's watching. Yeah, I want Street Beef Spokane calling you out. Anyway, that and also just to finish out these particular things because I know you got to go. I just wish conservacucks generally cared about education. You know, education. Can caring about education mean bringing back the humanities instead of fear mongering about litter boxes in the bathroom? LOL. Conservatives really hate the study of history. I had a history teacher who literally would play PragerU videos during class, 1350, and then why don't blacks have fathers? My black cousin doesn't have a father due in federal prison right now. It's all about circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, unless again, like Free Prince said, if you are the big brave person that is, you know, claiming that people are biologically determined to be animals, then what's your solution? Just come out and say it so we know to avoid you and we know who's the genocidal maniac, you know.
Exactly.
And I like the way some, I don't like it. Like to say you like this is actually kind of bad, but let's say I appreciate the point that some black commenters made that, okay, well, let's look at the statistical probabilities of pedophiles. Most of them are white men. Is there something about being white that makes you want to diddle kids? No, I think I could come up with a social explanation for that. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I think this would be a good guess. Because of our past, people tend to trust white men more. So children are left in the care of white men more. So children are more available, and that's why white men are higher represented. Do I think that if circumstances were reversed, not to insult black men, but like humans of all colors can do some sick crap. And I don't think white guys are any more predisposed to be pedos. It's circumstances.
Which those
I don't think, I don't think, God, this is getting controversial, but I don't think, you know, priests are more predisposed to like boys. It's got people who like to abuse boys get into the priesthood because the opportunity is there. There's nothing about the Catholic faith that makes you want to bugger a little boy.
Exactly. And like, but you know, and that's the thing. If you did want to really start isolating, there's an account on Twitter everyone should follow. It's called Antifa Operative, and she just posts nonstop, wall to wall Republicans, cops, white straight teachers, people who are like the people who would normally be on the side of, oh, those trans people are groomers, things like that. Those people have just so many examples, so many mugshots showing up, so many charges filed, so many convictions had. And like, not to be too, you know, because I'm a woke liberal. I don't give a shit, you know, fucking call me whatever you want. I'd rather be woke than asleep. I said that in my recording today while I was talking to people at this woke festival of terrible marchers marching against Trump and Musk. But like, you know, fucking Trump had Kid Rock in the White House the other day to like sign an executive order about ticket scalpers. And Kid Rock, he had this line in a song called Cool Daddy Cool that he says, I like underage C. Some call that statutory. I call it mandatory. Motherfucker is evil. He is a sick motherfucker. And Trump,
I've never been a fan, so I didn't know that. But here's what's funny. You saying, "Oh, I'm Mr. Woke liberal." You know me. I don't consider myself woke, and this would shock Matt. And here's another thing that you and I would probably disagree on. And
mm,
I like when people who disagree on things have discussions. I don't consider myself a feminist. He probably thinks I'm the most woke Karen feminist that there is in the world, and I don't. I actually have quite traditional roles in my home, but the reason I don't consider myself a feminist, just so people know, it's
yeah,
not that I think women are inferior or can't do what men can do. I do recognize certain inherent differences, but here's the main reason. I think feminism had a noble goal of opening up opportunities for women, and you may disagree, but I think we've accomplished it. And I think part of the problem with movements is once they get their goal, they're like the dog that doesn't know what to do when it catches the rabbit. And then they invent new grievances to continue to exist. I like movements to have a very specific goal and then disperse. And I know you might not agree with that, and that's cool if you don't, but that's why I don't consider myself a feminist. I might be speaking from my own privilege, and privilege is a thing. Sorry to trigger people. Everyone has privilege. It's just different kinds. Um, it could be just my privilege talking, but I don't feel in my life, and I can only go by my experiences. It's the only thing I know personally.
yeah,
I don't think I've ever been disadvantaged because I'm a woman. I, in fact, think I've gotten advantage. And to give you a story from another point of view, when I was first elected to the LNC, I was elected in 2016. I'd only been in the party a year and a half. No one knew me.
mm,
And the guy I was running against was an old white guy. And I heard the talk. We need more women. We need younger people. Well, God damn it, I didn't want to win because I was the one with the vagina. I wanted to
mhm,
win because I was the best person for the job. And you want to know something? That person, I'm not sure. I don't want to say his name because I'm not here to drag other people. I'm not sure if he's even still alive because he was an older person, but he resented me from that day forward. And I don't blame him. I did not want to win because I was a woman.
mm,
I wanted to win because I was the better one for the job. So that's just another perspective, just giving you reasons why I'm not a feminist. I can compete. I don't need a handicap
right.
as it were. But I understand other people have different experiences and might disagree, but that's just my point of view. And Matt would be very surprised probably to hear me say all of that because he probably has this assumption about me in his mind that is just so completely opposite from the truth. And something else I'm going to say that I'm not even sure if you would agree with, that he'd be shocked to say. Yes, Black people can be racist too.
Hmm.
I hate all racism. When people go eliminate whiteness, I think that is freaking racist. But I am going to call out the white racists too. All racism sucks. I don't care whether it comes from a white mouth, a black mouth, a yellow mouth. I don't give a flying F. Racism sucks.
Yeah. Well, so and like I'll have a few responses, and then I'll sort of like let you wrap because like it's
Yeah.
40 minutes past
Yeah.
now. But like, so my response is on my personal level, right? Um, I'm uh I'm an like a pan anarchist. I call my particular strain anarcho coalitionism. I'm all about building coalitions that address issues. And personally, while I don't particularly label myself a feminist, I do a lot of things that a lot of feminists would probably consider like make me a feminist. Like, I'm very much on board with like choice. Try really hard not to have one, but if you do, it's like up to you and your doctor. It's not up to, the government. Like I'm real strong on like, equality and like sort of trying to see people as people rather than their specific
That
sex
to
or
me,
gender
that
roles.
makes you a humanist,
Right,
though.
right,
I'm
right.
a humanist. I'm a humanist. I mean, I'm religious. Most people take humanist to mean atheist,
Right.
but I don't think that's true. The original humanists were Christians. I consider myself very much a humanist. I care about humanity.
Right.
Well, that's why I posted on Twitter, I love my race, the human race.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but that's the thing. Like, instead of identifying quite like that, I just say, I'm all anarchists, and that includes, ancons, that includes anprims, includes some aspects of like there's some. I don't even completely throw out ANCAP. Like David Friedman has some good ideas, and that's why we're still connected on Facebook.
Well, I'm glad you don't, because I'm an ANCAP, so
Yeah.
please don't throw me out.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so like that's the thing. Like, but I also work with queer anarchists. I also work with anarcho-feminists. And as long as it's like anarchistically inclined, as long as it's like driving at total liberation of all people, anything that gets in the way of that is a problem. And so I look at it through that lens. I look at it through a strictly liberatory lens where I'm willing to I like the term intersectionalism. It's a great term because basically what it means is we look at all the points where our oppression intersects and we try to find those points of intersection as places of solidarity where we can work with each other and like understand each other's struggles and try to form some unity based on like those things, fighting the real enemy. Like I always make the point, like the elites are in the ivory tower. They're looking down on us and controlling us. And as long as they can keep us fighting each other, opposing each other, like going against the common person down here on this level, their puppeteering is working like a fucking charm. And we will never make any advancements. So like I want people to recognize their shared points of struggle, get intersectional up in this bitch, which is a very woke term.
It is, and I'm not woke, so I'm just like, I look like such a right-wing person compared to you.
You're fine. That's part of the thing. I want this channel to be diverse. I wanted to have those different thoughts, and like the thing is,
it's like all the Matt Walsh people think like I'm such a lefty, and I look like such a right-winger compared to you.
See, that's one of the reasons I wanted this to happen before. Like, if he does have a show and this thing does go anywhere, holy shit, is he going to like melt down about this particular stream? And so are all his little fucking weasel followers. Marzuran in chat says always a breath of fresh air to see someone gets intersectionality. Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, I think like what we're doing right now is intersectional. What we're doing right now, we're recognizing that these people are fundamentally keeping us at each other's throats. They're fundamentally doing that divide and conquer. There's a song by Body Count called No Lives Matter, and it's great because it starts with an accurate representation of why it's frustrating to hear people say like all lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter. Like it speaks to that, but then it immediately dives into the fact that it's ultimately a class war. It's ultimately like the people in control, people with the power telling us to fight each other. And it's ultimately them exploiting divides and creating new ones and trying to keep us at each other's throat. They can't split us up once they realize we're all on the same side. They can't something. We can't let them up and let them profit off the divide. Like that's what it is. Like we need to understand like no lives matter to these people unless you're a tax cattle, unless you're a number in their machine. And these people want Matt Walsh to win because he is one of their champions. He is one of the champions of those in power, because as long as they can keep us fighting each other and attacking people like Caryn, we lose.
I forgot to say something funny about his followers. And this happens every time I get that kind of crowd come after me. Yeah. This is the comment, forget, you pink-haired leftist, you old hag, whatever it might be. I don't like saying the word accuse either, because it's not a bad thing to be. It's just funny because I'm not. They all accuse me of being trans. It's like a transvestigation that's going on. They all claim I have an Adam's apple. I'm like, I don't have an Adam's apple.
Well, to be clear,
why is that like a thing? They'll call me it.
Yeah.
What that will tell you something when you've got somebody who's willing to call another human being an it. And the thing is, if I were trans, I'd be out and proud about it. But I'm not trans. Like, I'm a girly girl, like,
Yeah.
was born like I'm not trying to like offend or insult anybody here, so I'm being careful, not because I'm woke or anything like that. It's because I'm trying to be polite. I'm not trying
Right.
to say anything to offend anyone, but like I I assume I did 23andMe and they didn't say I had anything strange with my genes, so I'm genetically female. I was born with a vagina. I still got it. I'm happy with it. I don't have any kind of dysmorphia, but all of these Matt Walsh fans decide that they have to call me a man. Like, that's
Yeah.
some kind of what? Everyone that disagrees with it used to be everyone disagrees with me is racist. Everyone that disagrees with me is a fascist. Is it now to those people? If it's a woman, all women who disagree with me are really men. Is that it? I've
It's
never been called trans so many, and like, I don't know. I have feminine features. I don't have manly features. Like, I just don't get, and I wouldn't be embarrassed if I did. But
right.
like, I've I got a big old booty and a tiny waist. Like, I mean, I got the curves. I just don't get it.
Well,
It's the weirdest thing to be called a man so many times. And
yeah.
I want to say to them, is this because, like, if you think I'm a man and you're men talking, are you like trying to make yourself feel more manly because you're built like a girl? Like, is that where this is coming from?
Yeah.
Because if you think I'm a man and you're a man, if you're built like me, you're probably getting your ass kicked. I feel bad for you. Like, I don't get it, but I've never been called a man more times than
Right.
in the past 2 days. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah. Well,
okay.
yeah. Well, and here's the thing. So first off, here's something I will push back slightly in a way that you will agree with, I'm sure. Everyone has an Adam's apple because it's not an Adam's apple. It's the fucking trachea. Some people's are more prominent, some people's are less prominent. That doesn't actually, like, it doesn't make you a man to have a prominent trachea. It's a genetic lottery every time people are born. But these people want to otherize people. That's what it's like when I was calling Nick Fuentes out for being a pedophile, because Nick Fuentes is a pedophile. He wants an innocent, untouched, pure 16-year-old virgin to fuck because he's a pedophile. And when I accurately called him a pedophile, I had so many people just running into my mentions with Jew, 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 Jew.
Oh no, they asked me too if I'm Jewish.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did get asked that. That used to be a more common like thing, but now it's all like and it's so weird now. Like, I got to prove I'm a woman. I don't have man hands. I'll show you. I got look at these tiny little wrists I got.
yeah, right. Well, but that's the thing. They always have to have something that they can try to pigeonhole you with. That's what it's for. They're trying to, like, as soon as they can find something where they can, like, isolate you and try and break you off from the group, then they don't have to address you as an individual person. They don't have to address you as the person you are. They can build a monolith in their mind. They can build a demon, a ghoul that they can then fight. And it doesn't matter what you are. It matters that you are not what they are. And so, like, if they can use this, it's always trying to maintain and create that other. That's the reason respectability politics fails, because you can't be one of the good ones. If those people are making this mentality where, like, these people are bad because of insert trait, and you come in and you have that trait, but you also, it's like, there's this website that Jeremy Kaufman advertised at the recent LPNH convention, where they voted on, new people. I'm not going to expect you to say anything there.
Mm-hmm.
I understand, but, like, Liberty Plus is like Nazism, fascism. It's a website devoted to that sort of thing. They have recruitment channels on Telegram, and then a deeper recruitment channel that I haven't joined yet because I haven't passed their, like, thing. To, like,
But label plus used to be like a woke thing,
yeah,
because
right.
like I've been on YouTube and doing all that sort of stuff long enough to remember the atheist plus
Yeah,
controversy.
atheism plus.
Okay, yeah. So you now I know what I'm. And that usually was a woke thing. That was
Yeah.
like, no, we don't want the pure thing. We want the pure thing plus
Yeah.
feminism or plus,
Exactly.
whatever was the hot issue of the time. But I remember the huge atheism plus dispute.
Yeah.
I'm not a Christian. I mean, I am a Christian. God damn it. Now that's going to be sound bad. I'm not an atheist.
Yeah.
But now I think you're starting to understand. Like, I really like listening to people I don't agree with.
Yeah.
I subscribe to a shit ton of atheist channels. I enjoy them. They haven't convinced me. I'm still a Christian, but I listen to quite a lot of them. When Thunderfoot was really big, which if you're going back
Oh,
that far,
I'm a sub.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm a sub. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I used to, but I mean when he was really popular, I used to like watching Thunderfoot, and then there was crap. What was his name? He used to live in Colorado. A more recent creator that he moved out. Dear Mr. Atheist. So I subscribed to him for a while, but no, I don't subscribe to any libertarian channels. I only subscribe to people I don't agree with. I don't want
I'm
to
similar.
be in an echo chamber.
But like that's the thing. Like, so the Liberty Plus thing, um, the guy who runs it, the guy who does most of the content, the guy who says most of the words, he goes by N of one, which is a statistical term. It's a math thing. Like, I'm not going to get into it, but like the thing is, he has like his business partner is this guy named who goes by Blood, Wealth, and Soil. These cowards never use their full names or faces or whatever. They're very much behind the scenes. That's why they need the Telegram recruitment channels and all this other stuff, and that why they need to hide behind Liberty Plus. They can't like be open Nazis and fascists and shit. So, but like Blood, Wealth, and Soil is a white supremacist. He's a eugenicist. He's, nationalist, all these things he's a fascist, very specifically. He ticks the boxes, and he bankrolled the site. N of one is a Jew. And the constant comments that Blood, Wealth, and Soil makes about N of one, and like N of Blood, Wealth, and Soil was constantly posting pro-Nazi, Klan, whatever things on his Gab. He deleted quite a bit of that to maintain a better image for the business end of the site. But what he says about N of one is that he's not a subversive Jew. So he's fine. He's not a
So he's one of the good Jews.
Yes. But N of one is just, he's being used by this mentality, and he doesn't care because it gives him position. It gives him a seat at the table, and libertarians are listening to him, and Jeremy Kaufman fits the same bill.
But Jeremy's Jewish.
Yes. But he's one of the good ones.
I don't know if he's religiously Jewish, but he's ethnically Jewish.
Yeah. But like he's one of the good ones according to these people. When you try to do that, you have to start participating in their kinds of shit. You can't just not be subversive. You have to actively support their mentalities. So they have you go through this shit. So like that's the thing. Like people need to recognize that in order to be a part of the higher echelons of these spaces or even advance at all, you've got to suck some dick. You've got to be like obsequious. You've got to go through their rituals. You've got to debase yourself to these people to enough of an extent that A, they have blackmail over you, and B, they own you, and you know that, and you can't step out of line. And that's what's real strong about this stuff, is because like they want to act like this is a white power movement. Where's your fucking power? Without those in fucking government, you would have nothing. That's the reason you celebrated Trump, Elon Musk. These people are your heroes because you have nothing. You have no power, and on some level you know that. So you find somebody like Caryn to shit on. That's all you have is your pathetic online circle jerk communities where you find
and I'm the one who keeps saying I have to go, but Wayne's probably asleep right now. Wayne's the one who dyes my roots. Now I just gave them meat for the fodder. I must have a feminized husband who helps me with my hair. But today, and normally I don't. I know people hear a lot, and I'm not going to discount other people's stories that they get death threats all the time and all that. That's not been my experience, but I'm not going to discount others. But today I actually did get a violent threat from one of the, I'm assuming, Matt Walsh stands. Now, was it credible? I don't know, but I'll tell you what it said. give me your address, bitch, and I'll show you what a real white aggressive man can do. Isn't that lovely? First time I had to ever report a post for a violent threat.
It's a cartoon character.
It is, but I'm not going to put up with it.
Oh yeah. Well, and I've had that on a variety of occasions. The fun fact, there's a channel in my Discord called Florida, and it's a running joke because when I exposed a grooming scammer, and like this shit little community, like with like some significant followings on Twitter and elsewhere, but with like this small little weird cult kind of mentality place where they were preying on minors and using like extracting money from them for fake accusations of bullshit that wasn't actually happening.
Oh my god, that reminds me of that episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah,
you ever watch Black Mirror where they caught that kid, on the camera?
Yeah.
I don't want to get...
Yeah. Everybody should watch Black Mirror. But like it's exactly like that. But like, sort of the obverse. Like like in this case, the things that they were saying specifically weren't happening, but they were like, give me money, I need to escape. And at the same time, this person was like literally preying on members of this community in the background. When I exposed these people, when I went against these people, and when I had a bunch of people helping me do it, like fucking, there was one person who, like, while other people were trying to dox me and said that I lived in Florida, this one person also said, something to the effect of like, Florida's great this time of year, isn't it? I hope you're good with explosives. So,
oh yeah, I mean a long time ago. Okay, I used to have a stalker a long time ago, way before cyber stalking was like even I think a term. Like I'm an early adopter of all the bad behavior. I had my identity stolen before that was like even a thing that people recognize. But I used to have this weird ass polygamous stalker, and he sent me an email with his picture. This is the kind of fucked up mind games. You'll recognize this. He goes, "Oh, I'm sending you my picture just so you can recognize me in a crowd."
Mm-hmm.
Why? Am I going to need to recognize you in a crowd?
Mm.
It's a fucked up mind games. Now, this was a long time ago.
Right.
Crap, we're probably going back 25 years now. But no, I know exactly what you're talking about. They just make these comments. What do you mean? I didn't say any. Okay.
Exactly.
And that, to take it full circle, is exactly the type of just like the G. Willikers, Matt Walsh kind of crap I was talking about. I was just asking a question. I wasn't really trying. Okay.
Yeah.
And you weren't really in your hypothetical referring to the real tragedy of the kid who lost his life. No, you really weren't talking about that. Okay.
Yeah, they have a term for it in various online circles. It's JAQING, jacking off.
I've never heard. Well, I mean, I've heard the other way that's used. It's spelled differently, but I've never heard that.
Yeah, just asking questions, jacking off.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Too bad it's not an old thing, or I'd put it on Jurassic Dictionary because I love my old.
Yeah, I think it's like, I don't know, a decade.
I love it though. Oh my god, that's it. Taxed, totally taxed.
Exactly. Yeah, that's been a thing for and the other term is like sea lioning, where they'll come in and they'll say, well, why don't you want to debate me? Just debate me. Like,
yeah, the debate me bros.
Now I'm here and your life has to revolve around me, and anything you do that doesn't, if you don't respond, you're weak. If you don't respond, you're accepting that I'm right. And it's like, fuck you, shut the fuck up. I don't have, my life doesn't have to revolve around you now that you're here.
My response to that always is, crap, now I'm giving away my secrets, and people on Twitter will know what I mean. I don't do the bless your heart. I just go, have a nice day. It's my bless your heart. Have a nice day. I'm not spending my time with that.
I will oftentimes just like, and this has gotten so many people to block me and disengage. I'll oftentimes I have tens of thousands of images relating to the Sonic franchise on my computer, and I'll just start spamming it at them, and they'll eventually just go away because why the fuck am I here? This is Yeah, I'm too fast. So
I love when one guy, he fell right into it. I go, "I'm sorry." And he goes, "Sorry for what?" I go, "Sorry for what happened to you." And he's like, "What happened to me?" I go, "You know, the soft spot getting dropped."
yeah, exactly. You got and you gotta make reference to the fact that they now have like a shelf on there. Yeah. But okay, so we're nearly 2 hours. I will
Okay.
I'll just say like, my final piece pretty much is as it always is. Understand the real enemy, understand that they're trying to create and profit off of divides so that they can never lose their power, because that's the only way that they have their power, is to make sure that we're like, oh yeah, those libertarian socialists, they're not real, or oh yeah, Caryn, she's just a woke pink-haired, commie leftoid because she criticized Matt Walsh. Now we got to spend all these time, or like, oh, those trans groomers in the bathroom, or oh, those violent blacks, or something like that. It's always got to be that mentality circulating with these people, because like they have nothing and they are trying to get something, and conservatism and the pipeline to fascism offers them greater and greater importance in a manufactured fight against non-existent forces that don't actually control them, while they like don't have any control themselves. They don't gain any control, and while they don't actually take control from the people who have it, because they are being misdirected by billionaires and like, psychopathic, narcissistic, evil people who are very much there to distract us from the real fight. So know the real fight. And I'm going to throw it to Caryn, and I'll just say a couple sentences after she's done, to wrap this up. But anything you want to say before we wrap? Thank you for showing up.
Yeah. No, I think I pretty much said it all. So I do invite people to my channel, though I'm much more. I'm not going to use the word conservative because it's been very bad in this conversation. But I'm Jeremy's left of me, but that's okay. We're both libertarian and represent different views, and we shown how to get along, even on things we don't agree on.
We
But
can't
if you
do
like
that.
people who like regularly dunk on Matt Walsh, I do that. I do that quite frequently, and a lot of Libertarian Party history. And I know those of you I saw the comments aren't so much into party stuff, but that's okay. You can be wrong.
Mm. Well, so I'll just say this. There are so many better ways to spend your time and energy, and we are all going to die. Don't die before the state.
Yeah, I like that one. Oh my god. I'm gonna be that cranky old lady, be like, God damn it.
Mm-hmm.
Can't die. State's still here.
Yes, we've still got cops to fuck up. Yeah.
My goodness. That's a good one. Definitely I'm taxing that too.
Don't die before the state, because the only thing in the way of us and doing what we need to do to get our freedom is this division, this constant fight they want us in, this constant time and energy draining argument cycle that goes nowhere and helps no one. And so do everything you can do to get away from that and smash the fucking state.
Yeah, amen. All right. Good night, Jeremiah.
Good night. Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.